How's everybody doing? Give it a second to sync up. We'll get started. I've been watching chat for a couple of minutes, but I had to make some coffee, guys. Here we go. We're 5 by 5. How's everybody doing this morning? Virginia Crochets. Yeah, I'm reading that right. Virginia Crochets. She has bragging rights this morning. She was the first one here. I guess it's a she. If not, I'm sorry, sir. Melissa, thank you very much for the donation to the Wall of Ball. I did get that note. And I've been seeing Let's Go Brandon in the chat. And I suspect that that's code for something Biden related. Am I right or wrong on this? Good morning, Brandy and Justin, Sharon James, Kayla. How you doing, ma'am? Digna, Aaron Goodman, Bubba Redneck. Hey, Nana, thank you, mods, for being here this morning. You guys rock, and you're welcome. I think it was Big Red that said, thank you for slowing the chat down. But yeah, I think there's some code words being used here, which is totally okay. I use them too. Shorty, how you doing, ma'am? So I had intended on talking about Frankenfauci's plan to cancel Christmas this morning, but actually I think I'm going to push that closer to Christmas because news just keeps hammering us. I wake up to something new every single day. So Michelle James says, fill us in on Brandon. So if somebody doesn't mind posting that in the chat, that would be awesome. I think it has to do with NASCAR, right? So instead, what I want to talk about is the potential of a civil war because it just got real. A couple of days ago, folks, we were talking about the governor of Texas, Abbott. He was setting up a meeting with several other governors, and that meeting went down yesterday. It is pretty much buried on mainstream media. I had to go to the actual webpage of the state of Texas to get details, and that intel's linked down below. Good morning, Paul and Luz. How are y'all? And in no uncertain terms, they told Biden what was up. So here's how it went down, okay? They actually submitted two plans on live TV. So the first plan has been now sent to the Biden administration. It's not going to cost Washington, D.C. a dime. You know, the money is already there. The folks in Texas, they went through, they looked at the federal budget. They said, you know, here's some money sitting here. Here's some money. We can use the money that's already sitting here to secure our border. And so I wrote these two plans down, okay? So they're asking Joe Biden at this point to end catch and release. So catch and release is, we caught you, you snuck across the border, son. Here's a court date. Now go have fun. And be sure you're back at your court date. You know, have fun in Arizona or wherever you choose to duck down and hide from the law. So they want Biden to end that. They want to speed up the court dates. So in other words, don't release people into Texas or Oklahoma or Arizona, wherever the case may be, and don't tell them they have a court date 3 years from now, because that individual is going to be here for 3 years. And that's if they're honest enough to show up for their court date. They want Biden to immediately begin to deport criminals. So if these folks have already snuck in and they have a court date and they commit a crime, for those that don't know, they're still allowed to stay. So they go out, they rape somebody, or they rob somebody at gunpoint. They're not even supposed to be here. They face those charges, but they're allowed to stay in the United States. Texas is saying, and the other governors that were there, they're saying no more. That's nonsense. Get them out of here. They want to use some of the money that's sitting in these slush funds that they found through the federal government to end human and drug trafficking. They're really trying to crack down on both, coming across the border both ways. Okay, so they don't want people getting stolen and sold, obviously, and they don't want any more drugs coming into the country by way of Mexico. They want Joe Biden to deploy more federal law enforcement officers. And again, they point to the fact that, hey, you have them sitting there. Here's the extra money to pay them with. It's already there. And they want Joe to get back to working with the government of Mexico like Donald Trump was doing. and maybe Mexico at this point picks up some slack. So they submitted this plan to the White House. Essentially, by doing this, they took all of Biden and Kamala Harris's excuses away. No more excuses. It's not going to cost you a dime. They said in the press conference, Abbott said, "Look, all Biden has to do is hear us, take 5 minutes to read it, and stroke an ink pen, and he can fix the crisis at the border. We've done all the legwork for him." But then they go on to introduce a second plan. In case they have a contingency plan, in case Biden is no longer willing to listen, or he's not willing to stroke that ink pen. Okay, so yeah, they will probably get laughed out of Washington, Georgia country boy. You're absolutely right, but they're prepared for it. So these states not only have gotten together, but they have set aside funding. They've gotten with the judges there in the states. The judicial system actually has their back here, and the district attorneys and things. And so they introduced a second plan, in which, number one, they will finish the border wall themselves. They're willing to pay for it. If Biden won't listen, they're going to finish Trump's border wall. Number two, they are preparing right now, either way, to deploy thousands of National Guard members. And this is tricky because the National Guard, they answer to the President of the United States, but legally they can be deployed by the governors of said states. So this is going to cause a lot of confusion, I think, within the National Guard, if they have two people saying two different things. They're going to immediately, if Joe Biden waves this off, they're going to go through the states, and I'll name them off in a minute, arrest all of the illegals that are there, and they're going to jail them. And the idea behind this, yes, it's going to cost a lot of money to jail these people. But the idea is simple, and Abbott said it beautifully. He's like, we're already paying for these people. We're paying for them to go to school. They're getting, benefits and welfare and stuff. They're costing the state a ton of money. So it would be better that, we just go around, we arrest them, and we jail them. And we pay for it that way. There's got to be some kind of consequence to breaking the law and sneaking into the country. Extreme sentences for human and drug trafficking. They're done playing. If they catch somebody sneaking drugs, muling drugs in, they're talking like a 50-year sentence. Basically life in prison. And finally, and this is a shot at the Biden administration, I think. They're making it illegal to transport illegal aliens unless you work for the state. So in other words, you can transfer these people back and forth to jail or to the border and say, get out. It's already illegal to transport these people, coyotes, I think they call them. But they are talking about the Biden administration here. They are saying, you're not going to come down here anymore. You're not going to load these people on airplanes and then transport them to other states and release them into the states. No more of that. They're saying if Biden doesn't fix the problem, they're prepared to do it. If, the feds come down with their airplanes, they're going to be arrested on site. And so this is huge, because they are now saying, look, other states can join us. If you want to handle the problem, if you want to do it yourself, it's time to join us. Texas is really setting itself up to become, if we were to have a civil war, folks, the capital of, whatever it's called, the group that breaks away. So again, Arizona was there, Georgia was there, Idaho was there, Iowa, Montana, Nebraska, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Wyoming. And again, it's basically an open door. If you want to join this coalition of states, you can do so. You're going to have to put up some state funding, and you're going to have to be ready to activate your National Guard. The Border Patrol was also there at this meeting. The state police also there at this meeting from the various states. So these states have taken their time. They've got the National Guard now. They have the Border Patrol on their side, and they have the state police departments of the various states. And again, the district attorneys and things are saying, we're not going to prosecute you for going along with this plan. It's time to do something. We're tired of seeing it with our own eyes. So I want to get some thoughts real quick from chat before we get any further into it. Missouri needs to join them, Move North Homestead. I don't know who else is going to join, but I suspect there are going to be other states do it. Right now, Billy said, I'm heading south if Texas separates. Right now, I think that I'm going to watch D.C. and I'm going to watch Joe Biden's administration to see what they do, see what the reaction is. Because if they don't react strongly, you're going to see other states start doing this as well. Come on, Louisiana. Micah, that's probably going to be one of the states. I mean, you can imagine, there's somebody saying Wolverines. You can imagine getting a phone call from a governor, getting a phone call from Abbott saying, hey, we're having, a meeting, state governors, we're getting ready to go against the president of the United States. You can see where some governors would probably be hesitant to do it at first. But if it's allowed to happen, you're going to see more people pile in because a lot of states are tired of Joe Biden. And it's, to be fair, it's not just Joe Biden. A lot of presidents have failed these border states here in the United States and done almost nothing for these people. And they're sick of it. And that is both sides of the aisle. Trump was actually trying, but of course he was being dragged through court and he was called a racist for it and yada yada. The Bushes didn't do anything to help out down south. The Clintons didn't do anything. Diana says it's going to get ugly. Too much is going on. I agree. And this is how the very first Civil War started to happen. Governors and representatives started meeting by themselves, away from the president, away from the actual Congress, and they started to execute these kind of moves. And so then it fell on Lincoln. What's Lincoln going to do about it after he was voted in? So now it becomes, what is Biden going to do about it? The Clintons, they made it worse, Nolan. I ain't going to disagree with you. I just don't want to get Clinton sided. So I'm going to leave that there. You know how that goes, right? Don't expect North Carolina to join this coalition, Terry. I don't, man. North Carolina is one of those states where if there was a split in the union, and we talked about it yesterday, it may split into 3 or 4 pieces, but if there was a split in half, North Carolina is one of those states that would split in half because part of it is very liberal, and then the rest of it, man, we're almost like the redneck version of Texans or something, They're more cowboy, we're more out in the woods. North Carolina's gotten way too blue. I agree with you, Marley, and it's happening. And also, before we move on, let me just say this. If they go through with that plan B, Abbott and Texas, I believe it's going to stop the state of Texas from turning blue, or at least slow it down greatly, because there are a lot of patriots in Texas, and these are even immigrants who have moved here the right way and used the process the way it was set up. They're even fed up with it. You know what I mean? They're sick of paying for it. And they're, crime's out of control. So what this really was to me was a kind of a low-key version of a convention of states. We were talking about convention of states a couple of weeks ago. People still talk about it in the chat. Greg Abbott just had his own yesterday. He didn't call it a convention of states, but that's what was happening. And it's going to continue to happen, I think. If Biden comes out, for example, he sends federal troops down, or federal agents, it's going to get nasty. Because right now, we're seeing federal power versus states' rights. How much power does Biden actually have over these states? And Move North Homestead, there are a lot of patriots nationwide. There are. As much as we give California and Oregon grief here, there are a lot of patriots there as well. They're just stuck in a bad situation. So what can Biden do? If you're the president, there's no way at this point he doesn't know about it. His advisors have came to him. They said, hey, man, Abbott's got something going on. he can pull the funding from the states. But I think at this point, the states don't even care anymore. I think they're past it. Pull the funding or whatever for schools. We'll do it ourselves. Especially Texas, huge economy. They can refuse to do business or trade back and forth with these states. And we've seen some companies do this, or cities. I think Portland was one of them. Portland or Seattle had refused to do business with Texas. And I'm like, however will they get by? They don't care. I think they're past it. You're not going to be able to sanction them out of this at this point. So really the only card left to play is you either you cave in and you handle your business as president, or you send in federal troops, you send in federal agents. And that creates a mess very fast. Federal agents coming in are coming in for no good. They would be coming in to arrest potentially the governors or, the head of the Border Patrol, things like this. And, state police are on board now with the governors. They basically yesterday swore allegiance to the governors, not the president. So it's getting nasty. DIY Dad. Dang! Over 900 in chat today and only 292 likes. So we got some Nancy Pelosi baby daddies out there. They just won't hit that like button. Oh, yeah. It feels like Monday 2.0. I don't know why. So on Patreon yesterday, we were talking about the incoming digital reset. There's some intel over there. This comes from Zero Hedge. They're calling it the Fed coin. And they've been working on this apparently for some time now. The Fed coin is meant to circumvent conventional banking and obviously paper money. The feds now are admitting, yeah, we've been working on it for a while. We're just waiting for the right time to implement it. And we're weighing the pros and cons. So, folks, the digital reset is incoming. It's a matter of when. Diana, thank you very much, and welcome to the Coffee Club. That should have unlocked some emojis or whatever they're called that you can use. But, yeah, they're calling it the Fed coin. I don't know if that's the name they're going to stick with when it's all said and done, folks, but just a matter of time now. That's probably why they're pushing back so hard on the available crypto that we have right now, is because they want total control over the movement of digital money. We're seeing it in China. I think China actually outlawed Bitcoin, unless they change their mind. I don't know. But they'll, it's just a way to track spending. It's a way to tax every transaction. I don't mind paying taxes, folks. But when I go to a flea market or when I go to a yard sale or something, I don't really want to pay taxes on that, My buddy comes over and he's like, hey, man, I'm in a hard spot. Will you buy this pistol for $250? Yeah. I don't want to pay tax on that, It's ridiculous. But that's why it's being implemented. Georgia Country Boys 76. I like that number. Welcome to the Coffee Club. Thank you. So I just wanted to mention that. If you're interested, the intel's over there. But you may not be. I don't know. Some of you may just be paper money till the end of time. So check it out. Since y'all were talking about Biden and throwing that little sleight of hand in there earlier in the chat, he has a fake White House. Did y'all see that yesterday? He has a fake Oval Office across the street from the actual Oval Office. I saw this and my jaw hit the floor. I didn't know what to say. I think he was getting, no, he wasn't getting his booster. He was talking to the American people about something. And it was coming from the heart. And then they had technical issues. I actually retweeted it. But Molly, it's funny. What is the purpose of a fake Oval Office? Well, here's the purpose. Come to find out. Okay, so all presidents use teleprompters when they're delivering, addresses to the nation and things. But when you're speaking from the heart and you're speaking, just to the American people about something very personal, normally you just speak to the American people. Turns out old Joe can't do that. He needs teleprompters for that too. And the Oval Office, the actual Oval Office, the teleprompters were bouncing off the windows in the background. So across the street, they built a second Oval Office, and the windows are actually digital screens, like TV screens, that show outside of the Oval Office. And this way, he can deliver the news from a teleprompter. He can talk to the American people. You know how he did at the debate where he's like, let me talk to you directly. And then he's reading off a teleprompter. He's doing this. And when they had technical difficulties, they accidentally switched to another camera. And you see it, it looks like a Hollywood stage. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. There's nothing more fitting for a Biden presidency than a fake Oval Office. I mean, that pretty much, that's pitiful, Lewis. It is really pitiful, and again, all presidents do it. You can go back and you can watch Donald Trump. He's really good at it. When you see Trump at a rally or something, he's got two teleprompters. And he's looking over here and he's reading it off. And then he goes over here and he starts reading it off. But then he'll get on a rant, kind of like I do, or he'll start rambling. And that's coming from inside. And Trump's really speaking to people and he's really letting them know what he thinks. Biden can't even do that. He has apparently no individual thoughts. He has speechwriters telling him everything. And so, how fitting is it that he has a fake Oval Office? I mean, this dude is fake. This is what he'll be remembered for. A failing economy and a fake Oval Office. This dude is like Milli Vanilli. I ain't getting over it. I couldn't. I was like, what? That says it all. Very fitting. Absolutely. Puppet President, River Rat. It's a banana republic right now, folks. And people were still defending him. They were still trying to defend him. And then pictures leaked out when he was getting the booster from the Oval Office. There are actually pictures floating around now where he was at the fake Oval Office getting this in a very controlled environment. So I don't believe a word this man says about anything anymore. I really don't. And I have a question for you before we get straight over into the chat. And this might upset some people, but I'm going to ask anyway. Mike Pence. Mike Pence has been on TV a lot lately. And he's kind of jockeying for position as Trump's running mate this time around. Now, I'm not saying we're going to make it, until 2024. That's a stretch, to be honest. But let's say in theory we make it until 2024, a new presidential election. Would you folks vote for Donald Trump if Pence was vice president? Because I don't think I would. I dislike Pence to the point now where I probably would just sit my tail at home. And again, this is if it's a level election, which is a huge stretch. No Trump, no Pence, Reckless says, and that's fine. It would be okay to see somebody else run. I personally think that, Abbott in Texas is either trying to spearhead a secession movement or he's setting himself up to run for president as the GOP's nominee. Pence is a traitor. I totally agree. Pence he's right up there with Milley. General Milley, how Milley was talking to the Chinese. I think Pence is a great speaker on camera. I do. I think he's a very conditioned speaker. And he says the right things, but he never really had Donald Trump's back. He was part of the problem. I don't know, Medic. I'll ask. Medic says Nikki Haley in 2024. What are your thoughts on that, folks? Would you vote for Nikki Haley? I would vote for Nikki Haley before I voted for Trump and Pence. Now, if it's Trump and somebody else, I would love to see a ticket with Trump and Ben Carson. I've always been a huge fan of Ben Carson's. He's not the in-your-face type of speaker, though, and that really played to his disadvantage, but he is intelligent, and he's a really good dude. Trump, Nugent, I don't know if that ticket will fly, James. I like Nugent. Nugent's got his head screwed on right, but I don't know if that's going to pull the kind of votes you need from the middle. Loved Ben. Absolutely. I still have his bumper sticker out in my filing cabinet. So, Davis 2024, that ain't happening, Chris. I would take my own fake Oval Office so I could do shotgun Saturday night. I mean, Rudy at the Alaska Prepper, he's got his own bunker. I need something. I may try and do shotgun this week from out in the office if I can straighten it up. So let me ask y'all this question, and then we'll get into it. Give me your perfect ticket, your president, vice president. Who would you like to see run? A few of you have already said Trump, Tim Scott, DeSantis. Of mice and men, DeSantis has already announced he's not going to run. He would be a great one, but Florida doesn't want to lose him. How about Jesse Ventura for president? I don't know, selling prepper. I mean, I would take him now as opposed to what we have, but I don't know that he would stand a chance. I mean, a winnable ticket, folks. Somebody that's going to be able to beat Biden and Harris. You know what I mean? Just curious. Iceman 1960. Thank you very much. With a little, what is that, a fox? Thank you. Candace Owens. I'm a fan of Candace Owens. I think Candace Owens needs to be paired up with somebody that's really strong. But yeah, Trump, Casey just said Trump and Candace Owens. I think that would be a really good ticket as well. Trump and Abbott, Justin said that would be. The only thing I worry about with that is you're not going to pull many independents, but that would be the conservative dream right there. Joe Rogan and Trump, wow. Rand Paul, I'm actually Katie. I'm actually a huge Rand Paul fan. He's one of the few that I think is there for the right reasons, or at least sometimes, right? A bunch of Ted Nugent fans in here apparently. Ted Nugent's just not going to pull the demographics that you need in order to win, though. Joe Rogan and Alex Jones. That would be a ticket to remember. I would just like to have that bumper sticker or a T-shirt or something. Those two together, man. Joe Rogan would be the voice of reason in that relationship, and Alex Jones is just. I like Alex Jones. Don't get me wrong. I like him. I think he's actually very smart. He stays on top of. He stays on top of the cabal, but man, he gets fired up sometimes. Doesn't he? So while we're talking about that, let me close with this morning. Hold on just a second. Broadhead 76. A lot of 76ers in here. I like that. Thinking outside the box. How about Rand Paul and Tulsi Gabbard? I would vote that ticket. I don't know that it would be enough to beat Biden and Dominion and Harris. I don't know if anybody's going to be enough, but I would vote that ticket for sure. Since we're talking about trying to stay ahead of the cabal and one step ahead, I want to tell y'all something a little personal, and then we'll close it out, if that's okay. So at night, that you folks know I don't sleep a lot. Usually what I'll do is I'll go sit out on the deck and I'll listen to the crickets and the frogs, and I'm out there smoking a Churchill Sun, and I'm thinking. My mind never shuts off. Like, I'm always thinking, what are they trying to pull with this? What are they trying to pull with this? So I go out and I'm sitting on the deck last night, and for the first night in weeks, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about how incredibly blessed that I am to have this platform. And I just want y'all to know that. I'm humbled that anybody would actually come in here and listen to me ramble in the mornings. When I set up Prepper Nation, I set it up because I noticed newer preppers were being ignored or even mocked in some of the other chats. And I noticed that people they weren't getting seen because they weren't super chatting and stuff like that. And I really wanted to set up a community. Yeah, you have folks that are the militia types and all that, but you have a lot of preppers that are in a relationship and they're prepping by themselves and they really feel surrounded by non-preppers, or you have the disabled folks. And I just wanted to set up a community where people could talk back and forth. And I had no idea that I was going to get as much out of this as everybody else. And so I've grown to love this every morning. It gives me a place to rant. And I just wanted to thank y'all for being here. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, okay, guys? I hope nobody's out there crying or nothing, but I really do. That was my thoughts last night. And then I finally crashed. So I appreciate everything that y'all do. I've got to go take some notes now for Shotgun Saturday night. But I'll talk to y'all in the morning. And God bless.